Hello and welcome to NFT Decree. I'm Barry and today I want to take a little bit of time to talk about Owlbear. Right, so this card here. Now, no doubt about it, it's an Owlbear meta. Right, if you want to be winning, Owlbear is a powerful card, dominates the early game meta. And either you're running it or you need a solution to deal with it. But certainly this is a case of if you can't beat them, join them. So most people are running Owlbear once they get into the game a bit more, looking for more competitive decks. And this is problematic for a handful of reasons. Right, it becomes very homogenous as a as a game. If everybody's always playing Owlbears, if it's the same openings every time, there's no room for the game to grow and to alternative lines of play to come out. It becomes very rote, it becomes very stagnant quite quickly when everybody's playing the same cards. Now, Owlbear's neutral, so it doesn't even need to be played in a specific deck, and it's really powerful, and it's actually a little bit overtuned at the moment, right? I can use a little bit of detuning, but I'm going to talk about how to deal with Owlbear in the current state, though I definitely think that this should be changed to cost one less for every other card in your hand, so it comes out one turn later, because also the way the game works, it's kind of bust. But I mean, I've got a whole bunch of other ideas about balance changes I might make, but if you guys want to see that or hear that, let me know in the comments. A lot of it's just, what's the word I'm after? I don't want to say it, but just wishful thinking, right? I'm not in charge of the game. I'm not here to make those changes, but at least we could discuss them. So Owlbear is an 8-cost 6/6 beast creature, right? That has its cost reduced for cost one less for every card in your hand, right? But the problem is that check is made before playing it. Right, so that can come out on turn 2 for the second player or turn 3 for the first player if they've not played any cards or if they've managed to replace a card with Owlbear, for example. And so as first player, you need some way of dealing with it on your turn 3, or it can wreck your health or your board, right? Just swinging tempo heavily in the second player's favour by virtue of their Owlbear coming down first. So if you've seen any of my videos before, you'll know that my favourite way of dealing with it is Liquidator. Now this is a 2-cost cultist, 1/2 body, has Fortify, but most importantly, Fatal Strike. So if you play this turn 2 and your opponent doesn't want their Owlbear to immediately die, then they need to find some way to deal with the Liquidator first. And that could be, there's a variety of ways of killing a 2 health creature, including having a 2 attack creature, which can come out, the turn before. But if you've played this creature, then that's already delayed your Owlbear coming out, because the only creature at this cost that replaces itself is Owlbear, and that has to be played on turn 2, which is an option for Ancestral Guard players, but less so for other people. So either they have to incinerate this, again, AG player, they need to put something out that just delays the Owlbear coming out for a turn, and then by the time you're into sort of turn 4, sort of turn 3, turn 4, there's a lot more ways to deal with a 6/6 body. So it's just really these early plays that are the problem. Now you can only have 3 Liquidators in your deck, and even with a hard mulligan, you might not see it by turn 2. So, and similarly, as the card pool increases, it might not might not fit into your deck having a cultist. So functionally similar is this Spiderling. Now Liquidators strictly better than Spiderlings, right? They've got the extra bit of health, so something like this wouldn't be able to kill a Liquidator, whereas it could kill a Spiderling, or even this 3-cost young recruit, right? These can all kill a Spiderling, but none of these can kill a Liquidator. This could, but they're also out of cultists. This could, but again, if they've played that, it just slows it down for a turn. But this does the same thing. It doesn't have Fortify, so your opponent's not forced to attack it, but if they leave it on the board, then you can kill whatever they've left, particularly their Owlbear, right? The second option is, of course, to fight fire with fire, right? Turn 3, if they've played their Owlbear turn 2 and you've not played anything, turn 3 for you could be your own Owlbear. But this is a weaker position than playing an Owlbear turn 2, because you're always going to be 6 health behind if you trade on swings, right? So if they play their Owlbear, you play your Owlbear, they hit you for 6, you hit them for 6, they hit you for 6, you hit them for 6. You know, if nothing changes, you lose that exchange. And so you're then forced to hit their Owlbear to stop that back and forth, which still puts them the 6 health closer to winning, because they've hit you once and then you've had to take out their Owlbear. So that's not ideal. If you are going to play an Owlbear, then you're going to need something else to move the swing of the game back in your favour, right? So next few turns. So there's a few ways of doing this. Firstly, you want to look at a way of surviving an exchange. So you want to hit their Owlbear and kill it without your Owlbear dying. So the best ways of doing that are increasing your Owlbear's health or decreasing their attack. So there's a few options for that, because assuming this comes out turn 3, assuming the Owlbear comes out turn 3 for you, they've hit you, it's now your turn 4, depending on what they've played. But you've got some options. So Navajo Witch is a good way of protecting your Owlbear. When it comes down, you can give your Owlbear Guardian. You'll be able to take out their Owlbear and you'll still have full health. And as we've just kind of established, right, Owlbears are hard things to take care of. But like I say, less so in future turns or in later turns of the game. But Guardian just means you can take a hit without taking any damage, and if you hit their Owlbear, then you are coming out of that one ahead. If you just need to edge out surviving and you don't want to spend all 4 of your mana that turn on the Navajo Witch, then there are a couple of items you could think about. First one is the Medicine Shield. So if you're playing a native deck, you might want the Inspire mechanism to trigger there, and you'll get 1 health. So you'll exchange, you'll be left as a 6-1. Loads of ways of dealing with a 6-1, you're probably not going to survive it, but the added bonus of Inspire may be worth it to you. The War Shield, Fortify, and the +2, so you'll be left with 2 health. Chances are whatever they hit you with is going to kill you as well, so the Fortify is mostly pointless, but it really depends what they've got and what they've got on the board. Could be an option, but you're very easily killed the next turn. And Blood Dagger for 3 is a slightly better option. You'll have +2/+2, and theoretically, I don't think this works properly, but once this works properly, if you were then to start exchanging with health to heroes, you're eventually going to come out ahead on that. So you can force them to trade 2 cards to kill you. Because once this works properly, you'd be an 8-8, then you'd be a 9-9, then a 10-10, which is pretty, gets quite big quite fast. You're forcing them to swing into you, probably with 2 cards, and that's an even trade, right? Their 2 cards for your 2 cards in order to stay ahead. So even with this, you don't have to swing into their Owlbear. You could just start going for face as well, and you would end up coming out ahead in those trades. There's also Battle Necklace, I guess, for 4. So +0/+4. Now having 4 health's pretty decent. You're going to be your opponent's going to have to commit a reasonable amount of resources to take out a 6/4 Owlbear. And again, if you're in the natives deck, and you've already got your totem out, then getting +3 on your totem's okay as a secondary effect, but really this is a little bit costly for what it is, but it does mean that you'll survive, so you could do that. Now if you're playing out of Rangers, this is your best bet, right? The Axe Gun, because not only does it give you +4, which is not what you need in this case for having an additional Owlbear, but also gives you Guardian. But then having a 10-6 Owlbear is quite scary to stare down, particularly with Guardian. So which PC is making those noises? But that's obviously only out of Rangers. So They've got other things. Like a sleeve gun would do it, but again, you're left with quite low health. You'll be taken out next turn, no problem. Like I say, instead of increasing health, you could also look at reducing their damage, but there's very few options for that. The only real ones poisons are. Reducing their attack to 1, possibly the best exchange you're going to get when you hit them. You take 1 damage and they get killed. At the moment, there's not any other negative attack effects, but as more of them come out, that's again another way of thinking about dealing with it. Alternatively, you might want to look at, when I said the exchange is always going to be unfavourable for you because they've gone first, you might want to look at swinging that in the other direction. Here you could use the Hui Shivo to root them for a turn, and then you're able to get your swing off, and then suddenly your swings are ahead of theirs. Actually, does the math work on that? They hit you, you hit them, they hit you, you root them, you hit them, they do nothing, you hit them. Yeah, so hitting this is getting Hui Shivo or even the Executor. Again, just to root them. Costs 1 more, but slightly better stats. Again, to try and live. So I'd suggest that if we're going for a turn 4, Executor's the better of the two, for 1 extra mana. And again, that just puts you ahead. If same as combining it with this Blood Dagger, or adding this Blood Dagger, if you can start making your swings more impactful than theirs, then they're forced to take care of you rather than you have to take care of them. Now, that's obviously great if you're running your own Owlbears, but not everybody's going to have Owlbears once the game launches proper, so you're going to need some other ways of dealing with it for those that do. So you want to be able to take them out quickly. You don't want to be taking a lot of hits from an Owlbear because they hit so hard. So you're going to have to boost the attack of a smaller creature up to 6 in order to take it out. A couple of ways of doing that. Worth noting that the best 2-drop is Brave, right? Because that has 3 attack. Now, there's no other 2-drops that have 3 attack, and most items you're going to add require a base 3, rather than a base 2. There's very few things you can do with a base 2, except out of Rangers. So turn 2, you play the Brave. Turn 3, they play their Owlbear. Or their turn 2, they play the Owlbear. Then your turn 3, you need to get 3 more damage in order to take it out. First one's Sacrificial Dagger. Now this isn't going to, again, I don't think this works properly either. And particularly if you die when you kill them, it definitely doesn't work. But I'm not sure if it works anyway. But once this works and does what it does, this isn't so bad. Your exchange there is slightly better. You're trading 2 cards for their 1 card, but you are getting 1 card back to hand. So balances out a little bit. It's a relatively fair trade, although of course you then still have to play whatever that cultist is, and you don't know what that cultist is going to be. If you're playing Crusaders, then Silver Bullet is an option. So you can play a bandit turn 1 even, turn 2 doesn't really matter what you get down, could be anything. Turn 3, your Silver Bullet gives your bandit Fatal Strike and the ability to swing on the same turn. So you'll be able to play Silver Bullet on the bandit and kill their Owlbear again for a 2-card. It's a 2-card exchange. Rangers, we've already talked about the Axe Gun, which is absolutely the best way of doing it. Now, you might think, okay, well, turn 2 I can play a Duelist, and turns 3 an Axe Gun. This does nothing for you, right? This Duelist has no combos with anything. There's nothing in the Rangers that requires you to play this Duelist. It's got no traits, it's got no abilities. If you're going to play a Duelist, you're just far better throwing in the Brave, right? That extra 1 attack may not seem like much, but at times it's going to make a difference, right? Because if you have that, then you also have the options at 4 to play the Shotgun. So the Shotgun will get you up to 6, and it will root it for a turn, or root something else for a turn. Depends what's out. You've just got more options. So this is a useless card. This needs to do something, or there needs to be some synergies that have to happen for this. I mean, even if you put Fortify on this and made these guys Fortify. Anyway, like I say, this isn't about my balance. If you want ideas on balancing, put them in the comments. I've got loads of ideas. But just if you are playing, then Brave's better than Duelist. Now, Horde and Destructive Horde and Ancestral Guard, AG, they don't have any buffs in the same way, right? They've no items that's going to give you +3. They've no creatures that can boost other creatures at that point. You're instead going to have to take them out with spells. So Bat Swarm for Horde, and Ancestral Guard, you need Lightning Strike. And again, that's going to require you putting the Braves in the deck to do the 3 damage plus another 3 damage. Now this is obviously the cheapest way of doing it, 2 and 2, and that will still leave you with another 2 to start developing a board presence, right? So Kalapalik would be a good one for there, or 2, maybe you want to start putting out some creatures, right, for to get the buffs when things die. So that's your other option. Your last option, really, to grin and bear it, right? You know, ideally you want to take as little damage as possible, but you just have to accept that they're going to get a swing off. This could happen either when it could be a strategy, right? You could build your deck around being able to take it out later, or you could just not offend your combos. So in those cases, you want to just take as little damage as possible, but you need something that that's going to take it out on turn 4, right? Turn 4, turn 5. But there's not. This is the worst strategy from the point of view, of course, you're getting hit, but also because whatever you put down, they're going to have an opportunity to react to on their turn, and there's lots of things at 3 that deal with your threats to the Owlbear at 3. So within neutral, you've got a couple of the Fatal Strikes. You've got Scorpion and Desert Snake. Now they're functionally identical, right? Both cost the same. The stats don't make that much difference. I mean, theoretically, this is strictly better because the more health you've got, you could take out smaller creatures. Again, this is not a balancing video. You put down so your turn 3, you put down something with Fatal Strike. They then have to kill that with something else, or else you'll kill their Owlbear the next turn. Which isn't ideal, and that's why even a turn 2, that's why turn 2 Liquidator is so powerful, because you can swing on turn 3 and then you free up your turn 3 to be more proactive. What else is an option? If you can get something done with Fortify, if you're playing AG, Fortification's an option. If you're not playing AG, then something like Agonizing Follower, a cheap fortification, and then you can put down, say, this, and I don't know what else would be particularly useful, but if you just need to delay a turn, you can get down your Brave and your Agonizing Follower that turn. Your opponent's forced to swing into this, and then they're down to 4 health. But because there's a lot of mute options at 3, so Fanatic being the best one of those, they can just mute your Fortify and let the Owlbear through. They can mute your Fatal Strike and let the Owlbear through. They can, even if you've got 2 things down, Fanatic's a great card because it can mute something and kill something else, right? So you can take, it's a twofer. Really good card for trading up. Again, we could talk about balancing on that one. But yeah, that's kind of it's problematic. If you have to take a hit, then you really need to change up what's what. Now, out of Crusaders, the Slaver's really good. Vulnerable to mute. Everything's vulnerable to mute, and your opponent's going to have a mute by turn 3, whether it's the Convict, whether it's a Fanatic. Although maybe not in the final game, or maybe there'll be something else that replaces the Fanatic in the final game, because Cultists are a little bit rarer. But the Slaver's really good. Got Guardian and Fatal Strike. You can get, if you're lucky, or time everything right, you can get sort of 2 hits off with this to kill 2 Owlbears if your opponent has it. In AG, like I say, you can fortify your own Owlbear, right, and force the exchange, which you might want to do, because wasting a Fanatic on muting an Owlbear doesn't feel so good, right? It's probably not the best use of a Fanatic, so they might just take the exchange with you. You might want to play, so you swing with the Owlbear and then you put Fortification on, and then you've also still got all your mana for that turn, just to kind of explain how that would work. You might want to play an equally big creature, Something like Mountain Lion, turn 4. Now that could be probably at best, like if your opponent's draws up on their turn because you've got nothing down that's threatening. They play Bless, for example. You could get like maybe a 6/7, which would be enough to exchange with an Owlbear. But again, you're going to be vulnerable to getting muted and going back to a 1/1. The Hui Shivo, I mean, that's still a good option for stopping them swinging with a turn. You can then, you catch up with the Brave in this to take them out. But if your opponent takes out one of your creatures, then you're not getting that swing back. So you're kind of you need to be able to put out more bodies in order to ensure that you can kill them. Or give them a target that they can't really ignore, right? If you put down Dire Witch, whenever your hero takes damage, summon a 2/3 cultist, you put this down, they're going to want to swing and hit this, again, vulnerable to being muted. But if they don't hit this and you start pumping out 2/1 cultists, then they'll quickly change tack and go for it. So that's kind of it. So it's important to understand why Owlbear's problematic on turn 2. Everything I mentioned is at least a 2-card combo. By the time turn 3 comes as the first player, you've only had 7 cards. You might not have seen the 2 bits that you need, whatever way you've put in your deck to deal with it. And you don't want to have to build your whole deck around dealing with an early Owlbear. It just really suffocates the early game. It's doubly critical. Even if you have the combo right, you're exchanging 2 cards to your opponent's 1, which is again putting you at a significant disadvantage because they've not even played a card yet. Their first card was Owlbear, so they've got a card advantage on you. They've got more cards in hand. They've still got all their plays to make, whereas you've gone through a couple of cards already just to deal with one of their threats. So Owlbear should be fixed, right? Slowed down a turn. The check should be for each other card in hand, which would mean that the soonest this could come out was turn 3. And then once you're into turn 4, there's a whole bunch of options that you can deal with Owlbear, or at least you're not getting pummeled in quite the same way. There's other things you can do. Some of the reactive things you would do on turn 3 become proactive with the Slaver, for example. Like if you put that down turn 3, that's kind of proactive. Your opponent has to deal with it before they put anything else down. There's just other options at 4. Devil's Ring, +6 damage. Loads of things. There's lots of things at 4. 5, you've got this. There's options at 5, right? And even 4. So hopefully there's some balancing still to be done. But if not, then just you need to think about how you're going to deal with it, because otherwise you're just going to get run over by Owlbears. Then their turn, you might get Owlbear, which is gutting. You need some way of dealing with big bodies, and even if it's not Owlbear, you just need some way of dealing with big bodies, and all of those do deal with big bodies. You just need to put them in your deck, really. So if you're getting smashed by Owlbears, then think about how you're going to deal with them. When you're mulliganing at the start, make sure you're mulliganing for those pieces. If you know that doesn't matter, just assume every deck's playing an Owlbear, and if they're not, you're overly prepared for whatever they do play. But hopefully that's going to give you a few ideas about what you want to put in your deck for dealing with it, and maybe just having a bit more fun instead of getting run over by Owlbears every time you play. Let me know if that's helpful, and as I say, let me know if you want any more tips and tricks on anything in particular. Until next time, this is NFT Decree signing off.